show interview with Dr. Brown.
You really want to know who Superman is?
Hello.
Hey, Miss Lauren, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Well, thank
Well, first, I just wanted to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to talk with me. I really appreciate it.
you. My pleasure. My pleasure.
First, can you say your name, where you work, and what your job is?
Dr. Michelle Gordon Brown. I work at Durban Family Medicine, and I'm the owner and physician.
Cool. When did you know you wanted to go into medicine?
You know what, Lauren? I have known since I was about 6 years old. My mother was a nurse, and my grandmother was a nurse's aide, and so I have 5 uncles, and one day I was at my grandmother's house, and I'm a little kid. I'm 6, right? So I'm short, and all my uncles are tall anyway. So my uncle Danny is especially tall, and we were standing in the hall. He said, "Well, what do you want to be when you grow up?" I said, "I want to be a nurse like mommy and grandma." And he stood for a minute and he thought, and he said, "Well, don't stop there. Be a doctor." I said, "Well, okay." And so that's when it started. So I was about 6.
Wow, that's definitely a long commitment from there.
Yep.
So I guess from 6, what steps did you take to go into medicine? Like, did you take any specific classes in high school? What was your major in college? And just what process did you take to get to where you are today?
So I went to Central High School, and I took the sciences when I was there. So general biology, general chemistry. I did physics, and then AP biology at Central. And then I majored in psychology when I went to Creighton. And it's kind of interesting because psychology is not considered a hard science. The hard sciences are biology and chemistry and physics and all that stuff. And I had my advisor told me that I needed to major in a hard science. And I didn't want to major in a hard science because if I didn't get into medical school, what am I going to do with a biology degree?
Right.
That wasn't my intent. So I did what I wanted to do, and you can do what you want to do as long as you take the prerequisites to take the MCAT and get into the school that you want. So I did that, majored in psychology, and just took all my prerequisite courses, and then I went to the University of Nebraska Medical Center.
Nice. So with the psychology degree, if you wouldn't have gotten into medical school, what would you have done?
I was going to be a special ed teacher.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Well, kind of along things, but just a little different.
Yeah, exactly.
Still have. Yeah.
So did you always know that you wanted to stay in like the Omaha, Nebraska area with like what colleges you chose, things like that?
No, I followed the money basically because I got a full college degree. I didn't want to stay. My plan as a teenager was that I was going to go away for college and then come back and go to medical school and then get married and have my family and then I think maybe stay here. That was the plan. But I was definitely going away for college and it didn't work.
But hey, you still made it, so it did work out. So when you wanted to apply to med school, what steps did you take to prepare for the MCAT? And then while you were in med school, how did you prepare for like the USMLE tests?
So I took the MCAT, I think it was my junior year in college. So the four, I didn't take a course, although that I knew that were taking the test, they did. They signed up for a CAP course or some sort of, test preparation class. I just got a book. I went to the bookstore, Barnes and Nobles or Borders or somewhere, and picked up a book, and I spent the whole summer studying, getting ready for it, and in the fall of my junior year. And I feel like I only took once. I think I did. I only took it once. Some people take it their junior year. They might take it again their senior year if they don't really like the score that they got, which is fine because you still have time to apply. You don't apply in your junior year. And then as far as the USMLE, they have test preparation classes for you that you can take to prepare for your step 1, step 2, step 3. I did a really good program because test taking is not my forte. I get anxious, so I did a special class in Kansas City. What's the name of it? I don't know if they still have it or not, but it's specifically for preparation for your steps, depending on where you are. And it was a really good course in Kansas City, so.
Yeah, I'll have to look into that.
You won't need.
I hope so, but we'll see when I get there. So when you were applying for medical schools, why did you decide to go to UNMC?
Again, they gave me a scholarship. Get out of school with little debt as possible. That is the goal.
Mm-hmm. You've told me that's the goal. I'm gonna
is to get out with as little debt. So a scholarship to go there, an academic scholarship, and that's where I went. And when I was in school, I lived with my grandparent, so I didn't have spend money for room and board and all that business. So that's why and detailed, and I'm like, I'm not applying to all these schools. So I think I applied to UNMC in Creighton, and Kansas. It was KU was the other one that I applied to. Medical school is what we're talking about. Because then there's a step after med school, is residency, when you go through this whole process again. Those 2, 3, 4 that I should have gotten these questions ahead of time, so I can go back in.
That's okay. You can take as much time as you need.
Applying to med school. I think that as med school went. So UNMC, Creighton, Kansas. Maybe it's strict. Am I right? They're just strict.
Okay. Yeah. Then you mentioned that so there's an application and process for just college, then there's a med school application process and all that, then there's a residency application process too. So
Yes, ma'am.
what's the application process like for residency?
Well, so you go through med school, and the first 2 years are primarily didactic. So you just classroom, you don't have a whole lot of patients. Your 3rd and 4th year, and you really get into like going through rotation to see what you don't like. And some people already want to come in the door, but other people don't have any clue. And so you're kind of, in your 3rd year, you're kind of looking down your choices, so for me, when I went in, I knew I wanted to be a pediatrician. That was it, right? But you can be a family practice doctor and children as well. So that's up on the table. And family practice, they can deliver too, which I thought might be an interesting thing to do, right? So family was on the table. I wasn't really thinking about internal medicine because that's strictly adults, and I knew that I wanted to see children. And I majored in psychology, so maybe psych, maybe. So when you go into your rotations, that lets you see what these things are like. So the second I started my psychiatry rotation, psych is completely off it, right? And then I did OB rotation and decided that I didn't want to, so that was off the table. And family, they don't have as in-depth of training pediatrics does, so I was and I didn't want to do OB anymore, so that was kind of but then year rest.
Cool. So, what was I gonna ask? So when you are just in medical school in general, you like pick what different rotations you want. Then when you go into residency, you do that specific like specialty that you decided while you were in med school.
So, in the third year, everybody has to take certain rotations. Like you have to rotate in medicine, you have to do peds, you have to do internal medicine, you have to do surgery, OB, psychiatry. So your third year is pretty much set for you, but you do have a couple of spaces that you can take what are called elective. So if you, I'm really interested in learning more about ophthalmology, then you might take an ophthalmology rotation in your third year. Or I'm considering radiology, so then you would take that in your third year. And then your fourth year is primarily elective. So, you're not going to be a surgeon to take any more surgery rotation. But if I'm really interested in surgery, then you might rotate with the cardiothoracic surgery, the, whatever else, the orthopedic surgery. You might tailor your whole fourth year to that. So third year is pretty much set. Fourth year, you can kind of do what you want.
Okay. Yeah. So what did you wish you knew before going and pursuing medicine?
What did I wish I knew? Before I started that's hard. And let me think.
Coming out with the tough questions today.
Depending on where you go, and it's sad to say, because I went to med school in 1994, but it's still true in 2021. You can go to medical school, Lauren, and have a class of 150 people and maybe be one of 10 minorities.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I had 10 people of color in medical school class, and that's all colors. That's black, that's Hispanic, that's Asian, that's everybody who is not white.
Right.
And it's hard. It's really hard, and racism still exists in the higher education. I think what I would tell myself if I knew, I would say that the goal is to throw you off your game.
Mm-hmm.
So the track.
Right. That was.
That's what I would tell myself.
Yeah, that was like leading into my next question. I was gonna ask, like, as a Black woman, what are some of the struggles that you had while like in medical school and like pursuing medicine with like being the minority and maybe people doubting you and things like that?
All of the above. Day one, I remember this. They had all of, it's like the welcome week. Things hadn't even gotten started. It literally was day one of medical school. Our dean, who is a total jerk and is practicing for some reason because he was old back then, but he put up all the demographics for our class, and your average MCAT score was this, and my score
upsetting, honestly. But
Yeah, it is. So you really are, you, that's my, if I had to go back in time, I would tell myself, they are trying to throw you off. They are trying to make you feel like you don't belong. And you know that's not true. So put your head down and keep going. Even when they throw the obstacle, because they do. You know, they really do. There were three, let me see. One, two. There were three of us, three black females in my class when I started. And one of them was in her first year. She had been there the year before and had some medical issues, I think, and so she had taken a semester off and was restarting. And then two of us started as, first time, first. So it was the three of us. And the one who repeated just decided it wasn't hard because she didn't have the support that she needed. So she dropped out in our first year. And then the two of us that were together, it took the other one 6 years because they kept, and she's smart, she's a nurse, She was a nurse and went to medical. But there was every obstacle thrown at her, every obstacle thrown at her. They held her back in her first year, retook it and passed to the second year. They held her back in her second year, like didn't know what she was doing, hoping that she would just say, I had enough, I just can't do it. But she carried on. And that's not the remember.
That's definitely something that I'm going to tell myself, that whatever obstacle comes at me, I will not let it knock me off my track. I have a goal, and that's what I'm going to do.
And prayer. And if you need someone to tell you that again, call me. And I'll remind you.
I will.
Okay.
I know you got it. Thank you. Let's move to something more positive. What do you like about your job?
I like everything about my job. I like people. I like I like the type of practice that I have because it's about longevity. I've seen you for however many years.
Right.
And there's different types of practices because there's the urgent care, there's emergent care where you see people just for that period of time. But I like the longevity of it. I like being a solo God. I like having my own practice and call shots. I enjoy that. The one thing I don't like, which might be your next question, is the paperwork because there's a whole bunch of it.
Right. Especially, I imagine owning your own business, it requires a lot more paperwork.
Yes. So it requires quite a bit of organization, which is a little taxing for me. But yeah, that's the only thing I don't like. I love everything else. I've got the best patients in the whole world, and I enjoy it. I like the whole spectrum because I have babies and I have 100-year-olds, and so I get to see everything in between, and I enjoy that part of it.
Yeah, I think working with people is definitely one of the best things about being a physician. Just being able to make people's lives better is something that I would like to do. So, and for my next question, since you do own your own practice, when did you know that you wanted to own your own practice, and what steps did you take to achieve that goal?
I knew early on that I wanted to have my own practice. So I told you about my 5 uncles. That was my Uncle Danny who told me to, and my Uncle Stan said I could open my practice in his because I've always wanted to have my own practice, and I've said that from really early on. The steps I took, so I didn't start off solo. I started off in a group. There were there were 4 doc and 2 nurse practitioners in the group, and I really enjoyed it. And when I started my career, I thought, 2 of the docs had been there for probably 20 plus years at that point, and the other one was coming up on 10 years. So it was a practice that had a long history, and I thought, gosh, I could see myself being here forever, and I could. And Olivia came along, and she did not appreciate my hour, because they were long hours, and at that point I took call in the hospitals as well. So if somebody got admitted in the middle of the night, I'd have to go,
Right.
And maybe she didn't like that. So I found another job that has call. So my weekends and my evenings were free, and I a good experience because it was just getting off the ground, but it was a community health center model. So remember I said it's about lunch. I practice with a community health center. The population is more transient, so you kind of, the mindset is do as much as you can in one visit, which to me is not the way I like to practice medicine. I don't ask you about your immunizations when you come in for a sore throat, because I know in the summer I'm going to see you for your wellness and get your immunizations in, right?
Right.
But in a practice, they might not be back in the summer, so you got to do everything you can. I didn't really care for that model, so I stayed there for about a year and a half, and then I came. That was in Plattsmouth, and so then I came back to Omaha, and I started this practice by leasing space in a smaller office, just because I didn't want to risk about debt. I didn't want to have take out a bunch of loans and have a big office, and that if I wasn't able to sustain it,
Right.
So I started small, and then I have it's been 5 years that I've been in this, so that's how it started.
Right. Wow. So what are the differences between being in a group and being solo?
So, okay. So the pros of being in a group is that you always have other people around. You have people to bounce off of. You have people to cover for you if you're sick or your kids are sick. Somebody else can help with your patients. The camaraderie is nice.
Right.
And in the group, I'm the owner, so I didn't have to deal with, paying the light bill or anything like that, right?
Right.
The cons of being in a group is that when you want to make a change or do something, anything, you have to consult the group. It's not like, I'd like to take a vacation next week. You can't just do that if you're in a group, right? You have to coordinate schedules, and is anybody else off next week, or is there anybody to cover my call if I take next week off? All of that. And so the flip side is the same for being in a practice or solo practice. If I want to take vacation next week, I'll cancel my clinic and shut the door, and I'm next week, right? I don't have to consult other people. But the opposite is true. If I have a question or want to bounce an idea off of somebody, I call somebody instead of walking down the hall and saying, "Hey, what do you think about this?" So those are kind of the signs.
Yeah. So what does a typical day look like for you?
So it depends on the day. If I'm in my office, I'm seeing patients all day. Right now I have a student, so I'm doing some teaching as well. She's following me. I also see patients in the long-term care facilities, so if it's a Friday, that's where I'll be most of the day, is in the nursing home seeing patients there. I work with a hospice organization, so if it's a Thursday, every other Thursday, which is why this worked out, I have a meeting with them on Thursday morning because the patients who are at the end of life. So, there's always patient in there at some point in the day, depending on wherever I am, but then it might be teaching and it might be administrative work. Every day's a little bit different, which I like.
Yeah. I have one last question because I don't want to keep you for too long.
Yes, ma'am.
What is the biggest reward in your job?
The biggest reward in my job is helping people to live their best lives. I think that's it. And I give a lot to patients because they come to me for something, right?
Right.
Either they need vaccines, or people come with a need. They're not just coming to say hi, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I also get a lot in return. I'll give you an example. So I have this young man who is a little bit delayed. I didn't say he's young. I think actually he's my age, but he's a little delayed, so he seems young.
Mm-hmm.
And he with his mother, who took him to another doctor a while ago and did not have a good experience. He didn't feel comfortable where he was. So because my office takes time and we sit down and talk and get to know who you are, he feels really comfortable here.
Right.
So he has the opportunity to get the coaching. And when he was younger, I guess he had a bad experience or reaction to vaccines, and the doctor told him never to get any vaccines, which is crazy to me.
Yeah.
But that's what it was years ago. And so COVID is real and it's serious and it's capable. And he has the opportunity now to get the vaccine, and his mom is very nervous about it, right? Because this doctor told him, don't do it 30 years ago. Excuse me. And so she called me because she wanted to know what my thoughts were. And I gave her an answer, and she said, I prayed to God that He would give you the right answer. And then she prayed for me. So just as much as I get back.
Yeah. Like, I definitely appreciate you helping me out with all my issues. You're definitely one of my inspirations on why I want to pursue medicine. So thank you for what you do, and I really appreciate it.
Miss Lauren, you are more than welcome.
Yeah. And I hope you have. Oh, I cut you off. Sorry.
No, that's okay. I just said let me know how your project goes, okay?
I will. And thank you again for taking time out of your day to talk